Well, Ricardo really wanted to go through, as I said, kind of phase transitions. What does it mean going from bullish neutral to bearish trend, and vice versa? And then kind of, what does it kind of really entail to get kind of around that, or sort of like, how many number of days, right? Or that kind of confirms a phase transition. So I'll I'm going to use everyone's favorite kind of topic at the moment, which is the U.S. Treasury 10-year, and I'm going to, if Jen could kind of the charts on the next slide, buddy, if you can kind of blow that up for everybody, I'll kind of walk them through. That's perfect, thank you. And it's really it's a great question, and it all really depends on your trade levels and your trend levels. So, for excuse me, so for the U.S. Treasury, the 10-year, you've got 3.57 as the trend, and three spot, I believe, is 82 for the trade, and so those are kind of the two important levels here. And you notice that in the last sort of week or so, or certainly this week, we went from kind of bullish trend to bearish to neutral to bearish, and then kind of confirmation of the bearish trend. So really, at the end of the day, a bullish trend means it's greater than the trend line. Neutral means it's kind of bouncing around the trend line, and you're just sort of waiting and watching to see what it wants to do. And then a bearish trend is below the trend line. That's kind of the simplest explanation for it, right? So in this case, the 3.57. If we're below that number, it's a bearish trend. If it's above it, it's bullish. And if we're kind of bouncing around it, then like we did the other day or earlier this week, it's kind of more of a neutral trend. Typically, what Keith has said historically is that he kind of waits 2 to 3 days for confirmation. But really, it is a bit of I don't want to say judgment call, but Keith definitely has kind of has the wherewithal. He's been, intimate with his signal for so long now that he definitely, like for instance, he said this morning that the SS&C for the Shanghai Composite Index, he moved it to neutral, right? So it's so that can sometimes it can be a little bit more kind of on Keith's call, right? It's Keith's call, but typically what he said is when he kind of waits 2-3 days for it to kind of confirm, and then he'll sort of transition that signal and move it from kind of say in this case the Treasury, the 10-year, bullish to bearish, but the yeah. So again, and then in terms of a neutral trend, really that means kind of do nothing, and it's much more of a wait and watch for confirmation period, right? So it's just kind of bouncing around the trend. It's not really making up its mind. In my prior example, it would be kind of I'd consider it sort of dead inventory, and therefore you just kind of move on to something else. So like keep an eye on it, but just sort of rotate back to where we want to go. I think in this example with the 10-year, as you can see, that risk range, now that was yesterday's risk range. I put this together last night, but the top end of the risk range is just kind of right below the trade line. And so that's something to be paying attention to, right? So if you've got the risk range right now, we're bearish trend, but that top end of the risk range, which is still it's a probabilistic kind of outcome, would be kind of above trend, but it's going to be below trade, right? So really what you're looking for in terms of like the best setup, especially from a bullish standpoint or bearish, is really bullish, trade and trend, and then bearish trade and trend. So really the difference there are the time horizons that are incorporated from kind of a price volume volatility standpoint. In our case for trade, it's 3 weeks or less. So the time horizon is 3 weeks or less. And on a trend basis, it's 3 months or more. So, that's going to, as I said, incorporate the price volume volatility in that scenario. And given the math there, it's going to give you kind of a level, and that becomes either resistance or support, depending on what type of environment that we're in. So a bearish. So for instance, right now, the trend line for the 10-year is now resistance, where it had been support when it was in bullish. When it was in a bullish trend. So yeah, so that I think kind of sums it up there. Hopefully, Ricardo, that answers your question.